He picked the most popular Hong Kong-made action picture at that time and asked a very blunt question.
For more than 50 years, the story of Bruce Lee's sudden death remained shrouded in mystery, fear, and whispers that echoed through the streets of Hong Kong. Fans, journalists, and even casual observers speculated endlessly about what could have ended the life of the man who had redefined martial arts on the big screen and inspired millions around the world. Some said powerful criminal organizations had orchestrated his death. Others insisted he had been poisoned by rivals, while a few believed in strange martial arts techniques that could kill from a distance. Hong Kong was a city alive with rumors and danger, and its citizens had learned over decades that high-profile deaths were rarely straightforward accidents. For many, the sudden passing of a young man who was only 32, physically disciplined, and seemingly invincible was more than shocking. It was unthinkable. Bruce Lee had trained his body rigorously, lived a life of discipline, and avoided the recklessness that so many of his contemporaries indulged in. He did not drink heavily, he did not waste his time on frivolous behavior, and his daily life revolved around honing his body and mind into tools of incredible precision and power. When news broke that he had collapsed and died after taking what appeared to be a common painkiller, the explanation seemed insufficient, almost insulting, to those who understood the pressures and dangers of Hong Kong's violent streets. It was not merely curiosity or fear that made people doubt the official accounts. It was experience. In the early 1970s, Hong Kong was a city where organized crime groups controlled vast parts of the economy, from nightclubs to film studios, and operated with little oversight. Violence was not hidden, it was understood, a silent but ever-present force in the lives of citizens and professionals alike. Sudden deaths of famous men were often interpreted as messages, warnings to those who remained, and in this context, Bruce Lee's passing could not be seen as simple misfortune. Rumors spread faster than authorities could respond, fueled by decades of corruption, fear, and the public's fascination with the rising star who had transformed the image of Chinese men in cinema. Bruce Lee was more than a film actor. He was a cultural symbol, a figure of pride, and a man whose confidence, strength, and refusal to compromise made him both admired and feared. This unique combination of fame, talent, and influence made Bruce Lee untouchable in ways that went beyond bodyguards or security. Yet, it also made him a magnet for speculation, suspicion, and, as some believed, the envy of powerful people who preferred control over chaos. The world in which Bruce Lee lived was not ordinary. Hong Kong's streets were crowded, chaotic, and often dangerous, and for those who dared to stand out, visibility was both an asset and a liability. Organized crime was embedded in daily life. It influenced business deals, movie productions, and even social interactions. Those who refused to comply with the demands of criminal groups risked more than career setbacks. They risked injury, humiliation, or death. Within this environment, one man held a unique position that bridged both the entertainment industry and the underworld. Chan Wai-man, also known as Chan, grew up in the harshest neighborhoods of Hong Kong, where survival depended on reading threats, responding decisively, and earning respect through skill and fearlessness. Unlike children who learned arithmetic and literature, Chan learned the lessons of life in the streets, when to strike, when to retreat, and how quickly a single misstep could destroy everything. By his late teens, Chan had joined the 14K-Triad, one of the most influential and ruthless criminal organizations in Asia. The 14K controlled neighborhoods, gambling, and illicit businesses, enforcing loyalty through fear and punishing disobedience, often with violence. Within this brutal hierarchy, Chan distinguished himself not only through natural talent but also through relentless discipline. He trained in multiple martial art styles: Northern Shaolin Kung Fu, Muay Thai, Western boxing, and Southern Chinese techniques, mastering speed, precision, and reflexes. By the early 1970s, he had become the #2 leader of a highly profitable and dangerous branch of the Simshat Sui territory, which encompassed clubs, theaters, and film-related businesses. Chan observed firsthand how the entertainment industry and organized crime intersected, noting how actors, producers, and crews were subtly controlled through intimidation, threats, or outright extortion. This awareness of both worlds would later place him in a rare position to understand the truth behind one of the most enduring mysteries of Hong Kong history, the death of Bruce Lee. Chan's life changed further when he entered the Southeast Asian Kung Fu Fighting Championship in 1972. Unlike street fights, this public competition showcased skill, discipline, and speed. Winning the championship earned him not only recognition but also credibility, allowing him to move within circles that included stuntmen, trainers, producers, and eventually Bruce Lee himself. When Bruce returned to Hong Kong from the United States, their paths crossed naturally. Both men shared a deep understanding of real combat, focus, and discipline, forming a silent respect for each other. This bond, though seemingly ordinary at the time, would later place Chan at the center of the investigation into Bruce Lee's death. By the early 1970s, Bruce Lee had achieved a level of fame and influence that made him nearly untouchable. His films were breaking records, theaters were packed, fans waited for hours outside studios, and street vendors sold posters featuring his image. Police were called not to protect him from criminals, but to manage the crowds, demonstrating that his presence alone could alter the behavior of the city. Bruce Lee's rise challenged traditional power structures. He demanded authority over scripts, fight choreography, and editing. His refusal to obey studio demands or accept unsafe working conditions broke unspoken rules in an industry where actors were expected to comply. Through careful planning, reliance on a trusted inner circle, and constant vigilance, Bruce Lee maintained control over his life and career in ways that few could match. Despite rumors, bribes, and subtle threats, he remained focused, disciplined, and respected, both by the public and by those who operated in the shadows of Hong Kong's streets. On July 20, 1973, however, this carefully maintained balance came to an abrupt and shocking end. Bruce Lee had gone to the apartment of actress Betty Tingby to discuss scenes, review choreography, and refine ideas for his upcoming project, Game of Death. The meeting was ordinary and without warning signs. At some point, Bruce complained of a headache, a common occurrence given his relentless training, long hours, and minimal rest. He took a common painkiller offered to him and rested, as he often did after intense work. Minutes passed, then more time, and Bruce Lee did not awaken. When the news of his death reached the public, disbelief and shock rippled through Hong Kong. Rumors reignited immediately. Secret martial arts techniques, poison substances, betrayals by business partners, and organized crime involvement dominated conversations. In the Triad world, Chan heard everything. People approached cautiously, hinted at suspicions, or openly asked questions. Chan remained silent, understanding that careless words in that environment could cost lives. Over time, as fear diminished and old power structures weakened, Chan eventually broke 50 years of silence. He publicly clarified, in interviews documented later, that the Triads had nothing to do with Bruce Lee's death. The underworld respected him too much, the public reaction would have been uncontrollable, and international attention would have followed. According to Chan, Bruce Lee's death was not the result of a hidden plot, betrayal, or criminal action. Instead, it was the tragic result of a body pushed beyond human limits, a body worn down by discipline, extreme physical exertion, dehydration, stress, and the refusal to heed warning signs. Medical analysis in later years supports this conclusion, identifying hyponatremia and cerebral edema as likely contributors to his sudden passing. Bruce Lee's extraordinary commitment to his craft, combined with his relentless training and minimal rest, ultimately proved fatal. His death was neither random nor conspiratorial. It was a sober reminder of human vulnerability, even in someone as strong, disciplined, and legendary as Bruce Lee. The truth about Bruce Lee's death is, in many ways, more profound than any sensational rumor could have been. It does not diminish his legacy or his accomplishments. Instead, it humanizes the man behind the myth. Bruce Lee was not invincible. He carried the weight of expectations, fame, and the pressures of constantly proving himself. His discipline and dedication to martial arts, while awe-inspiring, came at a cost that no fan could prevent. For decades, The myths surrounding his death persisted because people preferred villains, conspiracies, and dramatic explanations. Accepting that a legend could be taken by the limits of the human body was unsettling, uncomfortable, and, for many, impossible. Chan Wei-man's testimony, grounded in both lived experience and careful observation, finally offers clarity. It explains not only the circumstances of Bruce Lee's death, but also why myths persisted for so long. The man who lived in the world of violence, fear, and respect understood the truth, and when he spoke, it was not for fame or profit. It was simply to set history straight. Bruce Lee's life and death serve as a testament to the extraordinary heights humans can reach, the limits we sometimes ignore, and the profound respect that real skill, discipline, and integrity can earn, even in the most dangerous and secretive corners of society. Bruce Lee was not just a martial artist or film star. He was a symbol of cultural transformation. For decades, Chinese men had been portrayed in Western cinema as weak, submissive, or comical, often reduced to side characters who existed only to support white leads. Bruce Lee changed that narrative entirely. His presence on screen was powerful, assertive, and confident. He represented strength, intelligence, and skill, and his physical abilities were unmatched by any actor of his time. The martial arts sequences he performed were not just choreography. They were demonstrations of real technique, timing, and precision. Audiences across Asia and around the world watched in awe as Bruce Lee moved with speed that seemed impossible, striking with intent and control. His films were not only entertainment, they became statements of cultural pride, symbols of defiance against stereotypes, and an inspiration for countless people who saw in him a reflection of what they themselves could achieve. Bruce Lee's impact extended beyond cinema. He influenced martial arts schools, fitness practices, and philosophies of self-discipline. Students traveled thousands of miles to learn from him, and his teachings spread globally, becoming the foundation for modern, mixed martial arts. His philosophy emphasized control over the body and mind, adaptability, and the pursuit of one's highest potential. By the early 1970s, Bruce Lee's image had reached a point where it was impossible to ignore. Crowds filled theaters repeatedly, newspapers tracked his every move, and fans waited outside studios for hours, hoping for a glimpse of the man who had become larger than life. Even in Hong Kong, a city familiar with corruption and criminal influence, Bruce Lee's popularity created a kind of informal protection. While many people feared confrontation with organized crime, Bruce Lee commanded respect and admiration that transcended typical power structures. Criminal organizations, actors, and the public alike recognized that he was not a man to be underestimated. That combination of skill, discipline, and fame made him untouchable in ways that few others could ever match. It also made the mystery surrounding his death more compelling. People could not reconcile his unmatched skill with a sudden, inexplicable passing. The notion that someone could simply remove him from life through force or cunning seemed plausible to some, given Hong Kong's environment, yet others sensed that a more ordinary, biological explanation might exist. The tension between legend and reality created fertile ground for rumors to flourish, feeding a narrative that was simultaneously fascinating, frightening, and impossible to verify. Even decades later, Bruce Lee's influence remained palpable. His philosophy, films, and physical achievements continued to inspire new generations. Yet, the questions about his death persisted, kept alive by fear, myth-making, and the natural human tendency to favor dramatic explanations over simple truths. Understanding this influence is critical to appreciating why the speculation about the triads or secret assassins felt credible for so long. Bruce Lee's life was a challenge to existing systems of power, not only in the entertainment industry, but also within the complex social hierarchies of Hong Kong. His autonomy, intelligence, and visibility threatened both criminal and corporate interests. Yet it was precisely these qualities that made him admired, revered, and protected in ways that no amount of rumor could fully undermine. The blend of respect and fear that surrounded him created a cultural space where myths could exist safely alongside fact, allowing stories of danger, intrigue, and secret plots to coexist with a quieter, medical explanation for his death. In other words, Bruce Lee's legend amplified the mystery, making every detail of his life and passing a potential story of suspense and fascination. The persistence of these myths can also be understood through the lens of human psychology. Fans, the public, and even casual observers tend to prefer narratives with clear villains and identifiable threats. The idea that Bruce Lee, a man who seemed invincible, could die from something as ordinary as overtraining or a reaction to medication challenged the image that had been built over years of admiration. A sudden medical failure does not provide the same emotional satisfaction as a dramatic confrontation or a criminal conspiracy. This explains why stories involving the triads, mysterious poisons, or secret martial arts techniques captured public imagination and endured for decades. The rumor mill functioned almost like a cultural pressure valve, allowing people to reconcile their awe of Bruce Lee with the shock of his untimely death. Chan Wai-man's eventual revelation, that no triads were involved, offered a sobering alternative, one grounded in reality rather than fantasy. Yet, even after his statements, many continued to speculate, because accepting the truth required a different kind of courage, acknowledging human limits, vulnerability, and the consequences of pushing beyond what the body can endure. By understanding this dynamic, one can see why Bruce Lee's death remained a subject of intrigue and debate long after the initial shock had faded. Chan Wai-man's position, as both a former triad member and a martial artist, gave him unique authority to speak on the matter. He had seen the inner workings of the criminal world, understood how reputation and fear operated, and recognized that Bruce Lee had achieved a level of respect and protection that no one would dare violate. His testimony helped untangle decades of rumor and provided clarity that the public had long sought. In doing so, it highlighted a profound truth. Bruce Lee's demise was tragic precisely because it was ordinary. It was not a matter of criminal strategy or hidden assassination, but the natural consequence of a body pushed beyond its limits, an extraordinary man who had trained, stressed, and disciplined himself to a degree that even the most skilled physicians could not counteract at the moment. In essence, the myths surrounding his death were a reflection not of what happened, but of what people wanted to believe, a larger story for a larger-than-life figure. Understanding this distinction is essential for both historical accuracy and for appreciating the complexity of Bruce Lee's life. He inspired not only through his visible achievements, but also through the narrative of his human vulnerabilities, his discipline, and his unwillingness to compromise. The story of Bruce Lee, when stripped of rumor and sensationalism, is no less remarkable. In fact, it becomes more meaningful, demonstrating the cost of greatness and the real-world limits that even legends face. After decades in the triad world, Chan Wai-man eventually transitioned into a more public life within the entertainment industry. While his early years had been defined by survival, power, and constant vigilance, the skills he acquired in Hong Kong's underworld allowed him to navigate the complex dynamics of film and television with a rare confidence. Chan began taking roles that leveraged his background: gangsters, enforcers, martial artists, characters that he understood more intimately than most directors or writers could portray. His presence on screen became familiar to audiences, though his past remained largely unspoken.